So we're live. Evening, everybody. My name is TC, and we're here at Crank Revolution Bike Shop. Today we're here for part 2 of our e-bike series. We're going to talk more numbers, more details, more specifics about e-bikes. So thanks for joining us. And so, yeah, to kind of jump right into it, we're going to start with some vocabulary, because that's always fun to talk about. But so when we're going to talk about e-bikes, I mean, it's really important to know and to be on the same page with what terms we're using. So when we're talking about batteries, for example, we're going to be using the term watt hours. And so watt hours refer to effectively just the gas tank. That is how much battery you have available to you. And so some bikes will have a 320 watt hour battery, and some will have 500 up to 700 watt hours. So 700 watt hour battery is more than twice the size of a 320 watt hour battery. So that's kind of term number one, watt hours. That's our battery size. We're also going to talk about peak power. So that is the max amount of power that the motor can give out, and it's not going to be for a sustainable amount of time. It's going to be short, peak, kind of quick interval of kind of pushing that motor through, revving everything up, getting you out of that sticky situation, doing the best the motor can do for you at that quick interval. Along with that, also we have torque. So torque is going to be referenced by Newton meters, and it's going to be kind of, that's your acceleration. It's how quickly that tire can engage and really kind of push you forward from the motor's input. Those are really kind of the three biggest terms in terms of vocabulary things. There will be other things that I'll pop up, and we'll kind of go through as we kind of come down with this. But yeah, important things: watt hour, peak power, torque, which is in Newton meters. That's going to be kind of a good start for the vocabulary aspect of things. But so yeah, since I am a specialized retailer, that is going to be what I obviously know the most about in terms of e-bikes. There's a lot of different brands, there's a lot of different options. But so when we're going to talk from a specialized perspective as to what e-bikes they're putting out, we can't ignore their motor company, and that would be Brose. So it's a Swiss electric motor company, and they have partnered with Specialized for the last 3 generations of their e-bikes at this point, and have really kind of done a really great job in terms of giving Specialized the ability to tune, design, and have a lot of input into how that motor functions, how it works, how it drives, how it feels. Because from the Specialized perspective, that rider feel, that rider experience is so important. If you had an e-bike that was just throttle pull and just worked like a moto, well, that's not a bicycle to begin with. That's just a moto. And so it's kind of really allowed them with that partnership with Brose to kind of tune and make their motors exactly what they want them to feel, and really has upped the rider's ability to kind of ride the bike that they want. So that's a little bit on Brose. We'll definitely go more into that a little bit later down the road here. One of the things that's nice about it is actually the peak power motor, the top motor that Specialized offers in their biggest bikes. Like the Specialized Taro that I have behind me, has actually, from last I've looked, the highest available torque for a crank-driven motor. A lot of qualifiers in this, but it's at 90 Newton meters, which is greater than what Shimano and both Bosch are currently offering. So that's good to know. But so in that, one of the things that kind of has allowed for e-bikes to really kind of grow and evolve is the kind of connectivity, the app-based options that we have. So Specialized offers their smart app is the Mission Control app, and within that you can do a lot in terms of how do you design your bike, your ride to be exactly what you want. Number one from a lot of people is the conversation of range anxiety. That is, am I going to be able to have enough power to get back, to get home, to get to where I want to be, and not to be lugging around a dead bike, dead battery. So one of the things that they've put into that Mission Control app is what they are referring to as Smart Control. So Smart Control is the ability to kind of, within that you can program in, I need to be able to get 40 miles out of my battery. I need to be able to get 60, 70, 80, 100. You can set what your range you need it to be for that ride. And it'll adjust the power throughout the ride to make sure that you still have reserve of power when you get to that max distance you would put in. It will tune down the motor as it continues, as you're requiring more and more power, or as you are experiencing harder inclines, things like that. It'll adjust the motor's it'll adjust the motor's output for that, because it has to have a smart control. So that's a really, really nice option for so many people that, getting into an e-bike, is it going to work? Is it going to make sense? Is it going to be, functional for the extent of my ride? And that is something that's very quick, very easy to use within that app to kind of hammer out and have a set plan for, how much battery you want to have at what points. So within that app also you can tune the torque response, you can tune your peak power within each of the modes. So the 3 modes that Specialized offers are Eco is the lowest assist setting, Sport or Trail, depending upon if it's the kind of more road tune or more mountain tune, that's where you get Trail and that's where you get Sport, but that's that mid-range. And then our peak power level is always Turbo. And so within those modes, you can tune within that app. You can tune, how quick that torque response is, how quickly it's going to accelerate, if it's going to jump, if it's going to kind of pull you along. For mountain bikes, you would want generally a slightly higher torque response because sometimes you're on a rough incline and it's hard to get started. On the more roadworthy ones, that hard torque response can actually be a little bit off-putting, a little bit, put you out of control. And so it's nice to kind of tune that torque response down a little bit and just kind of get a more smooth acceleration, smooth increase, smooth incline to smooth assistance from that motor. And so that's, so tuning that torque response, tuning your peak power, max level, and nominal power. So in terms of how much assist the bike is going to give you. When you're able to kind of, make that bike feel exactly how you want it to, and it's something where a lot of riders never really adjust these things. Personally, as I've always owned these, I'm just happy with what the bike gives me. I kind of come from a racing, road racing, crit racing, cross racing, a lot of intense levels of pedaling. I've done a lot of touring too. So I've a lot of time on analog bikes, non-electric bikes, and so I am very comfortable in really all conditions to still be pedaling. But having that e-bike, having that assist has always provided for me just a means to ride more. Get out there when I don't want to, get out there when I'm not feeling as good, and get out there and do another lap. When I normally would cut at 2, I'll do a third. That's really how e-bikes have always worked for me, and I'm not someone who is really numbers conscious or, kind of, especially in the last few years, have just kind of cut tracking and, all of my rides. Just kind of riding because I enjoy riding. And so that's what kind of the Specialized mission control app system really allows you to define, if you want to define and change and tune how you ride, how your e-bike rides. That's where you get that kind of controls to, kind of tune and adjust those different levels independently and kind of really make it exactly what you want to get out of the bike. So as I'm going here and I'm going back and forth between these 2 bikes, it's kind of, it's important to kind of point out that there are two different main motor systems that Specialized is offering. So they have we'll call the SL system and what I call the full power system. So the SL system is your lighter motor, lighter battery, and it is max power is 2 times your output. That's kind of the functional number that it's working with. And then the full power is up to 4 times. So considerably more power, but also considerably more weight. And so that's the kind of cross between, for a lot of riders similar to myself, people that have been, have been cyclists for years and really enjoy the sport, really enjoy kind of the, the hard effort and everything. The SL generally kind of speaks a little bit more to that rider and to that person and purpose, because it's something where it's a little bit, it's not that full power, it's not that major adjustment. It's just a little bit more when you need it, so you can go further, you can go longer, you can go more often. That's really what it speaks to me and does for me. There is a large segment of the e-bike community that is getting way into the full power, the big stuff. A lot of people for that are coming from a moto world, coming from a, where they've had throttles, they've had that heavier bike that they're moving with, and this allows them that, you still have that strong power control, but you also get that good, workout that you can get on a bike. So that's kind of, in a quick little, synopsis, kind of how these two, for a lot of people, where they kind of fit into. So, and especially riders that are more range conscious, the SLs kind of have, because of that smaller motor, smaller assistance, they're able to provide generally a slightly larger range, especially at a lower weight. Average weights for the SL system, they've got, between the Como SL, Vado SL, Creo SL, Levo SL, Kenevo SL, I think that's everything. I've got my notes in here, but I didn't write down that one. across all of those, in the road versions, so that'd be the Vado SL and the Creo SL, you're talking, average weights for the bikes. One as light as about 32 pounds, maybe down to 29, up to, and frame size, all that plays into that, up to about 36, 37 pounds. So this here is, it's a very light, livable bike, easy to work with. Doesn't have a lot of the concessions that you need to have for some of the heavier things. When a bike gets to about 50 pounds, then what bike racks you're using, how you're moving it around, what you're doing with it, really kind of starts to, need some different things, because there are a lot of bike racks currently on the market that will not safely accept a 50 pound or more bike. 40 pounds is a lot of times the kind of break point for a lot of that. So that's just something to think about with those. That's a little bit different. And so we're going to go now kind of focus on the SL system. What makes this? So within what I have here, which is a Specialized Vado SL 4.0, so that is running a 320 watt-hour battery with the SL 1.1 motor. And so what's really nice about the SL series is actually every single one of the SL bikes is that. It is that 1.1 SL motor, and it is a 320 watt-hour battery. With the Creo version, the drop bar road versions, with that, you're expected up to about an 80-mile range on 320 watt-hours. So it's a very efficient, very solid system for that. They also do have the range extender battery, which is 160 watt-hours, which can plug into that and give you, because 160, 50% more power, or more duration, actually, not power. And that's the problem with this. There's so many details, so many little things, little one word here, one word that's just a little bit different. So breakpoints there was 320 watt-hour battery, SL 1.1 motor, and a available extender battery that is 160 watt-hours to give you 50% more battery life. So if you're having that range anxiety, that extender battery can be used, because it is a separate external battery, in a lot of different ways to kind of alleviate that range anxiety and kind of work that in. And it does integrate well with the mission control system also. When we then go to the full power systems, this is where we get quite a bit of different variation. And so this is where I got to kind of dig to my notes, because there's a lot more here. And so what I have behind me is the Taro. The Taro right now is a class 1, but I've heard rumors that class 3 will be available. If you remember from last class 1 is the 20 mile an hour speed limit, and class 3 is the 28. So having a kind of monster truck build at 28 miles an hour would be really, 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 really fun, because you can really run through everything. And so I like how I'm doing this, and actually I don't remember what battery's in there, and I don't have that in front of me. So if you want to help me out with that, that'd be great. What battery's in the Taro? Oh. There's too many small variations. I'm going to assume that this is probably the 530 watt-hour, and then the 5.0 is the 710, because that's kind of the general gist of these things. But for us to get it perfectly correct, we're going to have to look that up. But to my knowledge, we're just going to go. So I believe this is to be a Specialized Broza 2.0 motor with, I'm going to assume, a 530 watt-hour, because it is a Taro 3.0. And so, the Taro and the full power versions, basically the entry level kind of comes with that 530 watt-hour, and then the higher models, the 4.0 and 5.0, typically go to the 710 watt-hour battery. And so 530 to 710, did I get that right? Okay, I did get that right. So cool, all right. I can, we'll do it live, it's great. But so, when we're looking at, that motor difference, 530 to 710, that's 180? Yeah, 180, so 30% more? Yeah, about 30% more battery. Okay. I mean, that's a good increase from, so that's, when you're looking at those different levels between the 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, if they do offer those different levels, which they do in the Vado and they do in the Levo's got a whole bunch of different options. Those motor battery differences can, if you are trying to plan out and do longer, more expeditious rides with them, going up to the higher level bike will provide you, more power, See more battery life, more power available. It's not easy to do these things. It's really easy to get tripped up. But so, yeah, this Levo or this Taro here, 530 watt-hour battery, specialized 2.0 Broza belt drive motor, and I'm trying to think of, I'm tired, man. This is rough. This is rough, especially when I have no one here in front of me. Do we have any questions? Nothing yet. This has not been the easiest setup today, and we're moving forward though. We're going. I mean, that's a lot. I just gave a lot of information. That was it's a lot. That's most of my notes have generally been covered because a lot of this is repetitive. I'm trying to think of what else to have next. Yeah, talking about the bikes. And so within this, I mean, we're going to kind of just shuffle all this together. Kind of at this point, if you are on the fence about an e-bike or if you're looking at an e-bike curious, riding them is obviously just the most important part of it. You can go through and you can dig through the numbers. One of the things that I've found in my experience kind of shopping and experiencing and living in the global market as we do, there is so much chaos right now in the e-bike category. You'll have some people that say volts. Volts are the thing. If you got a higher voltage motor system, it's going to be better. Efficiencies in these things are so important. And so that's why I kind of stick in the rider experience, get on the bike, go take it for a feel, see if it works for you and for what you want to do. Because with all of these different systems, you'll have some that kind of prioritize one portion over another. So it has max torque or it has max peak power or max nominal power. All of these things can fluctuate, but your experience on the bike is obviously the most important thing. Just because you have the bike that can put out the highest torque out of anything does not mean that it's the perfect bike for you. Kind of figuring out what that is and how that's going to work, and then also how it's going to maintain for you. One of the things that from the shop level that has made my life so much easier, being a high-level specialized retailer, is that they have in their diagnostic setup that the shop level has, I have a lot of controls into what I can do to tune and adjust motors outside of what the Mission Control app already does, which is great. One of the things that we can do in the shop here is for those folks that are have range anxiety. Any class 3 bike can be stepped down generally to a class 1, so you can reduce it from a 28 mile-an-hour speed limit to a 20. In terms of your overall range, your battery availability, that will extend so much because the amount of power, true power required to accelerate a bike and to maintain a bike at 28 miles an hour is significantly higher. It's, if I'm not incorrect here, exponentially higher at 28 miles an hour than it is at 20 miles an hour. So you'll have a lot more efficiency in terms of battery life and longevity at a lower speed limit. And yeah, 20 miles an hour, plenty fast. You don't need to go any faster. But that's one of the things that that diagnostic setup that the specialized retailers have really kind of helps us to tune, understand, and develop what's going to be the best bike for you. And that's really where all this needs to land, because it's in their marketing, which I have quoted 1,000 times in the shop here, but it's so true that it's you only faster. I definitely touched on this last week too, where is an e-bike cheating? Well, it's cheating if you want to cheat with it. But if you want to be, you on top of the bike doing whatever you normally do, you absolutely can do it. This bike is not going to stop you in any way from doing that. You can just go faster. That's just the simple answer. Oh, we do have a question. What is our question?
Why should I buy a specialized e-bike? Not just specialized, but a specialized, designed e-bike rather than an electronic kit I can put on my bike?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, everything that I've been going into in terms of efficiency. So crank-driven motors that are integrated in are the most efficient. So there is a significant energy loss anytime you are trying to adapt. So adapter kits are typically either hub drive motors, or sometimes they're a external roller that is pushing the tire, which is going to add tire wear. So those kits, these bikes are very designed to take on the amount of power that we're talking about. An analog bike, peak, professional riders can max out at 1,600 watts. I've seen some advertised kits on the market that say 3,000 watts. Frames aren't meant for that. Things will break. Braking systems need to be adapted. How the wheel is engaged into the dropouts needs to be changed and adapted. There's a lot of things that are really important in terms of getting right to get them safe, to get them controllable, to get them reasonable, and not have these larger issues down the road. And so, yeah, those bolt-on kits. There are a few applications where they're good, tandems and these unique cases where you can't get a regular bike otherwise. They are something that is feasible and not a bad idea. But for your average rider, I really try to avoid them at all costs because they're a band-aid solution. If you want an e-bike, it's best to get something that's designed exactly as an e-bike for what you want it to be. If you want an analog bike, get an analog bike. These two things are well suited and well built and kind of what they're meant to do. And so yeah, the bolt-on kits, also the back-end firmwares, the support, the warranty support. I've never seen any of those that came with any kind of actual follow-through in terms of what the rider bought and, hey, I've had X issue, what can you do to help me? Where here, yeah, we can change motors, we can change everything, and in that integrated system that we have for their specialized dealer network, we actually are constantly giving them the firmware data from what motor errors you have, what's going on, so they're able to kind of quickly and efficiently diagnose what's going on to solve the problem as fast as possible, if there is one, and there really rarely is. So yeah, that would be my thing. Those systems are, they're a band-aid solution that was engineered to work with all bikes. And if you've ever listened to me talk about bikes, the word standard literally doesn't exist in this industry. There is nothing that you can tell me that is a standard that has been consistent across time for bikes. So that being said, all of those kits are going to need to generally be adapted to fit for your bike. So it's already going to be a band-aid fix on a band-aid fix. And then, yeah, if you do have any problems with, a wire getting severed or something, back-end support's generally pretty weak for those. So it's going to be, yeah, a lot of times expensive, and I do actually have one in a bucket over there. That's an expensive, just broken wheel that we can't do anything with because we can't get it to work because it, shorted out and we don't get any manufacturer support. So that's going to be my kind of push for really kind of best to avoid those band-aid systems. What other questions do we have?
Do you prefer e-bikes that have internal batteries or external batteries?
Okay, that's a good question. And so I definitely prefer internal batteries. At my time at Specialized, we Specialized were doing a lot of externally, batteries that were easily removable. That might have led to, at one point when we were at the bar, one of our coworkers, because we were the support team for a lot of the e-bikes, knew how to remove the batteries even if they were locked in, because there always needs to be a workaround because people are going to lose their keys. So someone's battery may have been stolen from their bike and hidden around in someone's car, and it just created a fun solution because yeah, they had to pedal their e-bike home without any battery assist. And it was probably returned to them the next day. But so one of the things that we found out with when you have a external battery that's removable and is removed often, the pins, the connectors, every little piece in there, especially we're talking 36 volts, 48 volts, these kind of higher power systems, a bent pin that has any kind of grit, grime, corrosion in it can cause some significant issues. So it is a much safer, much more consistent system to run everything internally, to have it be not fixed and permanent. All of these batteries can be removed. This one is technically external, but it's pretty well fixed in there. Whereas, yeah, with this one, you absolutely need to drop the motor to be able to pull the battery. So having that internal battery really provides just safety and security, I think is the best way to put it. And then you do have that flexibility with the external battery packs to add to that battery life, or to run it if you want to maintain the internal battery's health as good as possible. So you charge it at 70% and then you try to not really use it that much. That external battery, extender battery can be used in lieu of that to kind of really help to cook through, run through, use that battery more than anything. So yeah, I'm personally a much bigger fan of internal batteries. You know, it was an interesting world when we were trying. Okay, are they going to get stolen? Do we need to have them individually keyed? You know, a lot of these things were kind of a non-issue because if you steal an e-bike battery, unless you have that e-bike, it really doesn't have much value to you. Yes, these batteries are $800 to $1,000, but it's only in what somebody's going to pay for it. And I'm assuming that the black market for specialized e-bike batteries really isn't great. Because yeah, it's a very specific ownership group that actually can value and benefit from that piece. So yeah, internal batteries, in my opinion, are totally the way to go, and especially with the kind of range and sleek design that we get from an internal battery, it's a really great package. But yeah, very good questions. It's so much easier when I have questions. If it's just me delivering to the camera, like I'm pretty good. I got a lot of room to grow. I can get a lot better, but it's a lot more energy. It's a lot easier to work off of, some kind of feedback. Yeah.
Should I worry about a regular bicycle tech working on my e-bike?
Okay. And so yeah, the question was, should I worry about a regular bicycle tech working on my e-bike? And I mean, back to the word, like standards don't exist. What is a regular bicycle tech? And so the only time that you should worry is if they are, not trained in the specific motor and battery systems that they're working with, and they're making recommendations and trying to make changes. So these systems, as they're built and as the diagnostic systems that we have a lot of controls built within them where it's really difficult to kind of quote unquote like brick a motor, to make a change, to adjust the firmware to within the specialized mission control app. There isn't anything in there that you're going to adjust the settings and you're going to, cause a catastrophic failure. That's not allowable within that program. And so the only time, if someone's doing something that is, if we're taking Dremels to things, if we are cutting, braking, twisting, turning, bending, those things are not really very good to be doing within these very well-defined systems. That being said, like we were talking about the bolt-on kits, the add-on kits, those, you really can't install them without bending, twisting, cutting, braking, because that's kind of how it has to be adapted to work. So this is where, the kind of the duality of, the e-bike market from the top tier manufacturers is it's a very well-channeled kind of pipeline, very well-channeled ecosystem where, when you stay within that, you have, X, Y, and Z that you can change, but certain things that you can't, and it is a very bad idea to go outside of that. That being said, I have heard of, there are, apps that allow you to, untune and change these things. But that voids your warranty, one, and then two, because of that, you're going to run, motors above where they're meant to be run in terms of like heat ranges. It's going to cause problems down the line, and to go from 28 to 31 miles an hour, it's not that much of a benefit. If you're racing also, it's cheating. So not a great thing. And so staying within, I mean, from the mechanical side of things, this bike is entirely a bike. The only thing that a non-e-bike mechanic would struggle with would be the crank and bottom bracket system here, because that is proprietary, and there are specific tools for that. But if they're going to change your chain, change your brake pads, there is nothing unique about those that make them e-bike specific. Besides the fact that companies are starting to make now e-bike approved or e-bike recommended brake pads that are higher heat ratings, more dense, more tough products, specifically for e-bike and e-bike use. So chains, derailleurs, brakes, brake pads, cassettes. I think I'm looking at tires. I mean, there really isn't too much there that is, in any way out of the realm of what every single bike mechanic is very comfortable with adjusting and tuning. The one thing though is, so SRAM for a long time has produced a e-bike specific shifter, which is funny to say, but it allows for only one click up and one click down at a time. It's a weird thing, but with how this motor and chainring can spool up, if you are putting through multiple shifts, that can cause a lot of damage and a lot of stress and wear on the chain. So having that one click at a time is nice. And rarely is someone going to be changing your shifter And also, you're able to, as a rider, shift it only once at a time. So yeah, that's kind of the only other caveat part, because yes, there are no standards in this bike world. It's terrible. Yeah, what else do we got?
We got a couple questions.
Sweet. All right, great. This is what I wanted.
From Nick Johnson on Facebook, any info on frame geometry / enduro-built e-bike? How are suspension components different on e-bikes?
Okay.
Support weight of the bike, suspension travel.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the question was, how are longer travel bikes? So this here is the Taro. Specialized does also offer the Levo and Kenevo models. So the Levo is the more kind of like trail tune and trail build in terms of 150 travel, front and rear, maybe 160, in that range. And then the Kenevo is that longer travel, 170, 180, more enduro style build. So how are suspension components specific to those bikes? So that's been, a big change for a lot of companies recently, is because you have, 40 to 50 pound bikes, how that suspension, is functioning, how it acts, is specifically tuned for that higher weight, heavier bike. And as when we are shopping as a shop, when we're looking at, changing someone's shock, changing someone's fork, there are e-bike specific recommendations made from each manufacturer, be it RockShox or Fox, Öhlins, a lot of them. A lot of them have, very specific kind of options for e-bikes. In terms of fit, feel, and geometry, they are, very, very, very similar, if not exactly the same, to their analog lines in terms of how they're built and how they're meant to track and trail. Generally you have a little bit longer wheelbase kind of across the board to accommodate the motor components. But in terms of how the bike is built and what it's meant to do, they ride incredibly similar. And that's from my experience on, analog Specialized bikes from, over the last 7 years, every bike that they produce realistically, and then their e-bikes for Levo SL, Levo HT, Levo Fat, bikes that aren't even produced anymore. But yeah, in my experience on those, it's a very similar riding and feeling bike in terms of your position on top of it and how you kind of sit within the travel once it's tuned to you. What else? Yeah.
What factors impact the weight of the bike? What about the weight distribution of where the parts are on the bike?
Okay.
What do you think the future holds for weight reduction?
Sweet. All right. So yeah, that one is, it's the weight question. And so where is the weight, positioned? Where is it? How does that throw and change your ride and ride feel? And then where is weight reduction coming in the future? So yeah, with the weight, I mean, that full power system, these motors and these batteries and kind of what they're able to do, especially with battery technology changing ever so rapidly, is only going to continue to get better, lighter, easier, a kind of more adaptable package, smaller as well. And so what we have here is, when we look at the full power versus the SL systems, you can see, I mean, those size differences and the weight differences, which are talking, this bike is almost 15 pounds more than this one, which has fenders and rack and lights and all of those parts. So between those two differences, I mean, that's a big part of the weight, difference. Larger capacity batteries going from 530 watt hours to 710 watt hours are obviously going to be more. There's more cells, there's more energy potential that's able to be contained. So what we'll see kind of in the future, I feel that this bike is kind of the bike ahead of its time, because it is a highly powerful system at a very minimal weight penalty, very minimal weight cost. Because the Specialized Cirrus, that's the most analogous bike to this, the base model I think is 26 pounds. So if we were talking plus 10 pounds for assist up to 28 miles an hour for an expected range of about 60 to 80 miles, that's 10 pounds, I will gladly spend that to get that kind of a return on my power investment. So yeah, in the future, we'll see batteries and battery cells, sizing and weights coming down, and we'll also see motors, becoming smaller, more compact, and therefore lighter. That's where we're going to go. One of the things that is really, really kind of interesting when you talk about the moto world of e-bikes, so the full power Levos, and that people who come from a moto background with a throttle sending bikes, because of how with that integrated system where the batteries in the down tube, the bottom bracket has your motor. That weight is as centered and as low on the bike as it can possibly be. So when you are jumping these bikes, and I have done quite a bit of this, when you're jumping a bike that, an e-bike 20 feet, it is really stable in the air because of where it's positioned. That's, said for the crank and bottom bracket drive ones. Anything that would have like that rear wheel or some other kind of battery and motor system where it's heavily weighted towards the back or heavily, that's going to adjust your feel on the bike much more. But when it is as centered and as low to the ground as possible, that's going to be the most stable, and it's going to increase your stability on the bike. So yeah, those systems that are, integrated, super nice, super clean from top tier manufacturers are excellent. That's another thing that, those bolt-on, those adaptive systems are not so great with because they put all the weight typically at the back. Most of us have seen the battery systems that kind of sit on top of the rack, and then the hub drive motor. Okay, so that's 15 pounds at the back of the bike, and so it definitely just kind of doesn't track as nicely as it would if it was all centralized. So yeah, weight distribution and weight's going to come down over time, and the weight's only going to get nicer. What else we got?
Should I be afraid of commuting in the rain with my e-bike?
If you are nervous about commuting in the rain with your e-bike, then it's not from a quality manufacturer. These things are made to, at one point, the IPX ratings, it was technically waterproof when fully run. And so that is meant to be, can be submerged, up to a meter. And so if the bike wasn't designed to be waterproof, it's not a bike. It's not a very efficient thing because bikes can be ridden in the rain. Bikes can be ridden in all conditions. They can't be ridden underwater, and so that's the one caveat. But no, there is, I would have zero fear because that is not a outside of warranty. That if you're riding your bike in the rain, that is perfectly within your warranty. If you're dropping it into the ocean, that's outside of the warranty. And it's ones where these things are kind of meant to protect manufacturer and manufacturer defects. And so a bike that's ridden in the rain that would have an electrical problem, that is such an outlier case because that is something that isn't designed, isn't meant to happen because it is covered within your warranty. So no worries about riding in the rain because I have ridden my e-bike in the rain, in nasty weather, in the snow, in the slop. I've crashed and kind of fallen partially off a mountain with mine. It's they're very well waterproofed, and that's one of the things that with those internal batteries and internal systems, we get much cleaner, much more covered, ports and settings there. Well, hello, Scott. I'm on camera, so.
The hot button question came up. Shouldn't I be allowed to ride my mountain bike on the trails, the e-bike, if I'm already paying attention to the trail conditions? What's more important?
All right, so this goes to more local legalese. As we are speaking on Thursday, January 26, 2023 at 5:40 whatever time it is. Yes, technically e-bikes are not allowed off trail in any Cook County or Kane County. I might have been sitting at a meeting last night where this was discussed. Yes, you should. So this comes to enforcement is really going to be the thing that I'm going to kind of lean on. So you should absolutely be able to ride your e-bike on trails when you're abiding road, proper trail conditions without, damaging the trails, without causing any problems. And there are studies that are currently being conducted that are proving that e-bikes don't have an added or any kind of extra wear towards a trail. So yes, you should be able to. And I'm going to lean to enforcement. We've seen in Illinois recently, there's some gun laws that some sheriffs are saying they're just not going to enforce them. I have never met someone that has gotten a ticket for riding an e-bike on a trail when they were reasonably allowed to, in terms of weather conditions. So go for it. And then also squeaky wheel gets greased. Let's push for better legislation. Let's push for more accurate legislation that allows for these things. And so if you know the people to get in touch with to get this to be changed, to make it where these things are legal, because there's no reason for them not to be. As someone who helps to dig the trails, there's no reason for them not to be. So yes, they should absolutely be legal. I fully feel that way, and I am all for a quiet and respectful resistance where we are riding the bikes as we choose to within the confines of what's allowed on, allowed in terms of weather conditions for the trails. So go for it. And yeah, if you get a ticket, let me know. And hopefully at some point I'll be able to help you out with it, but at the current moment I can't. But yeah, they should absolutely be allowed, and there's no reason for them not to be. It's just it's a legalese and it's a legislative backlog where it's just not where it should be yet in terms of where the industry should be. And we're wrapping it up. Is that what that is? We're wrapping it up. What time are we? Are we at time? See, this is why questions make it.
2 minutes in.
Questions make it so much easier because I am. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'm going to start wrapping it up because I got the green light or the red light or whatever from the producer there that hey, we got to start closing this down. But no, thank you everybody. I hope this was effective and informative. Yeah, I think this style might be a little bit more effective for us going forward. So we're going to do more of this. I'm not sure what next week's clinic will be, but please, any questions, comments you have, let us know, and we'll kind of make this more of a live hybrid system where yeah. We'll do the clinics that the viewership wants, that the people want, and yeah, we'll kind of tailor it more towards specifically that. Cool. Thanks much. I'm going to unmic myself and walk away.